Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Party Talk podcast, where we empower leaders in youth drug prevention. I'm your host, Jake White, co-founder of Vive 18. And today I'm chatting with Misty and Ty, who are prevention leaders in, I would just say the Midwest, but people define the Midwest differently though, because I'm in Wisconsin right now speaking, and some people think that's the Midwest. But all right, Misty and Ty, what's up? Welcome to the podcast. And please tell us a little bit more about you and your coalition.
Hi, so my name is Misty Russell, and so we have a coalition in Northeast Oklahoma, in Salina, Oklahoma. It's a little small rural community. I have a drug-free community grant here. I'm in year 4, and our things that we kind of go over is underage drinking, opioid use, and marijuana. And vaping is such a huge epidemic where we're at. And then
So talk about so I'm Ty Thompson. I do alternative ed. So a lot of what it is for kids that have been in trouble, or they're having a kid, maybe they're behind on credits or whatever like that, something like that. And then I'm also the athletic director, then virtual, and also I do in-school placement, or ISP. So that's kind of where Missy and I have kind of touched bases quite a bit, is if I have a kid in ISP for vaping, then I get a hold of Missy, or she's provided some resources for me so that I can go along with the program that we have instituted here at Salina.
Okay, that's great. And Misty and Ty, I don't know if I had met you when I came and spoke there at Salina, and met Misty and was just like, dang, she's on fire. Like, I can't wait to see what happens with this. And so when I was there, my impression was, hey, this is a small rural community, and we work with a ton of rural communities. So I felt right at home. But just for the people listening, can you give us a little bit background on your demographic, like how many people live in Salina? Just like, I don't know, anything to share so we can get a feel for what that's like.
So our community is probably, I want to say, the last U.S. census is like around 1,200 people. We're a high percentage of Native American population, and then the other high percentage is also Caucasian. But I'm going to say most people have Native American descent, but that kind of fuels the community a little bit. We've got a Indian clinic and everything like that, and that's where most of our kids go for healthcare. But we have a bunch of small communities around us that kind of feed into Salina as well. As small as we are, we still have, I guess we would consider suburbs for even a small community. So they're little branches, I guess, is a better way to put it.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. So you get to know your community well and everything like that. And doing this work over, I mean, for me, watching from the outside, getting to help you kind of launch your youth program, I really want to, for this episode, just for everyone listening, I spoke for Misty, last fall maybe, and then just watching from the outside was like, whoa, is she wearing booster rockets on her shoes? Like, good things seem to be happening. And so for this episode, Misty, Ty, don't feel like you're bragging. I would love for you to share what's been the timeline of things that have happened, and what can you celebrate with us, and all the good things that have come to pass over the last year. And then I might ask you some questions on how you pulled off some stuff, so that the people listening can maybe steal some ideas, or, duplicate your great efforts that y'all have done. But can you kind of give us a timeline starting when I was there? Because I kind of want to catch up. So that sounds awesome.
No, so that's great. So it was a year ago in October that I took on this position. Never worked in prevention, so I had really no idea what I was doing. But I have 3 teenagers myself, and so I kind of had a passion already. So I've kind of come in. I had you come in April to speak, kind of right around prom season. But with that, I've been able to really create some relationships and partnerships with the school, um, and with the superintendent, with the teachers, with the athletic director, with different ones that we have. And I think those are the biggest successes that I can say is finding the key partnerships within the school. Um, and so kind of some of the things we do is first off, I started trying to figure out how to put prevention in schools without trying to do a ton of presentations because we don't have a lot of money to spend on it. So one of the things is we've hidden hearts around the school in the high school that had prevention messages on it, and when they found them, they had to bring it to the teacher, and they got a prize. We I do toilet tabloids, which I brought one with me, and so we put these inside the stalls in middle school and high school. We found out that more kids are apt to reading them versus out in the hallways. So like March is our vaping awareness. And so we'll even have tear off tabs for where they can text numbers. If we put them out in the hallways, they're all still there. But if we put them in the restrooms, we're having to refill them. So trying to find different ways to show prevention and get messages across without trying to shove it down their throats. So whatever that looks like. And so that's been a really successful thing. One thing I wanted to partner with the athletic directors, we kicked off, let's tackle substance misuse because a lot of our kids play a sport. So we tried to emphasize on how when you do these substances, how they affect your body. After you drink on Friday night, after your game, it's slower healing process and it messes with your muscles and all of that. And so that was a really great campaign. But talking with the football coach, we were able to put posters inside the locker rooms and we were able to print off the rosters for the football team. So on the back of it, it had like our OPNA data, which is our Oklahoma Prevention Needs Assessment for Salina. So we were able to like educate them on that. And then we had the different ways that the different substance was affecting them. So that way parents could see it. But we set up tables at football games. We did like fans. We handed out fans when it was hot. It had the social host law on it, and we're going to do those for graduation. So it's been kind of wherever we can put prevention in without, doing a big thing of it. Whether that's been setting up on, parent-teacher nights, things like that. And I also got to do the kind of hidden in plain sight and some education for all the teachers on their professional development day and gave them all Narcan training. And so every teacher in Salina has Narcan in their rooms. And so I think the biggest thing is just forming those relationships and not just coming in and taking over, but coming in and wanting to be an asset, I think is huge. And so I've been trying to speak to other schools around on the great things that Salina is doing and how they've allowed it and how it's not really one more thing. It's really just kind of a huge asset. One of the things that Ty's already talked about, so we got the school to agree in August that we do education before punitive punishment on vaping. So I kind of came to them and said, hey, so they're vaping. So then we send them home where they can vape even more. Right. I personally had my own story with my own daughter and realized how bad the addiction really is. And so I wanted to share that with the school and how we really need to help with that. So that's when they started with the ISP. Again, that's what Ty does. When you're in a small school, you have people that wear many hats. And so with that, anytime he has someone that comes in, he sends me a message. And most generally, I've been able to be here at every one of them. And I do the education for a couple of days. And we've had 7 offenders so far and 0 repeat offenders. And so, but I've also provided Ty and his teacher assistant with the education also. So in case I'm out at a conference or doing something that they're able to provide that. But one of the things we really get to talk to these students about is just, they know how harmful it is, but just like the long-term effects of it. And so it really kind of just breaks it down a little bit more. But Ty, is there anything else that you can think of that's
But one thing I'd also like to throw out there is just consistency. I know she's kind of talked about how they were being consistent, but just using that word is kind of not, and it's not just consistency with the students. It's not just consistency with the faculty or administration. It's with everybody across the board. And one thing I'd like to add was they also did shirts for the football team as well. And to me, that even adds more to the consistency because low income area, they don't get a lot of new stuff all the time. It may be once a year when they get the Turkey Nation benefit for clothing or whatever like that, or something that the whatever sports team that they're playing for buys or whatever. And so I've seen a ton of kids wearing those shirts throughout the year just because it is something new. It is something that the kids don't believe in or having dealt with it. They're at least seeing that more often.
Wow. That's so cool. So I know for y'all, since you're doing this every day, you're probably like, oh yeah, this is normal. This is what we're doing. It's exciting, but like, Jake, calm down because you're obsessing over it. But what I love is that you've built so much momentum, and that consistency probably has a lot to do with it. And you've built relationships. And since you've done that, people are allowing you to do more. And I just want to point out something that I thought was so cool is when you talked in the beginning about, hiding hearts in the school, and they would, bring them to you for something, is like you're gamifying the content and the engagement. You're not just telling people things, you're making it fun and spontaneous and adventurous. And it's something to get excited about during the day. You also took an idea of putting up posters and found out it was people would more likely read it when they're in the bathrooms because they're just walking by the hallways. And so you're problem solving, you're finding the best way to do things, you're partnering up with the athletic program, which we all know that a lot of times athletes have a lot of clout and influence. And so that's a big bonus, I would say, that y'all are able to do that. I wanted to ask you, was there any pushback trying to get in with athletics or into the ISP or having like an alternative to suspension? Did you have any pushback or any questions that people wanted to know first?
Honestly, so when I kind of gave up the idea to our superintendent, he said, I'm willing to try anything because whatever we're doing right now isn't working. So it was very much of him realizing, what we're doing isn't working. Now, it did go into law in Oklahoma in effect in November 1st, that they have to do education over punishment. But a lot of schools still don't even know what that looks like. And so that's one thing that I was able to do, is to get a lot of background on it. And that's one thing, is just doing a lot of research. So because these schools do have a lot going on. And so I came to them with some research, with some background, and kind of just showed them, hey, this is what I'm looking at. And this is what we can do. A lot of people are like, well, we're not going to have time to do that. Or it's supposed to be once a week for 4 weeks. Well, that didn't work for us. So what we did is we do it in 2 days. Like I do 1 hour one day, 1 hour the next, or whatever that looks like. And so we had to fit it to whatever worked best for us. And that was the other big thing, is not taking something at face value. Like, just because it works somewhere else doesn't mean it always, what does that look like for us in here? And, just like you said about the t-shirts, at some schools, you may not even think anything about the t-shirts, but here it was a big deal. And I didn't even realize it was that big of a deal. And then we also provided them with bracelets that said "Protect Your Game," because we're trying to get these kids to really hone in on something that they care about. And that is going to the next level possibly, and informing them that even if they have a medical marijuana card, the NCAA, doesn't recognize that when you go on to play sports in collegiate, And so just trying to inform them. So we did the 3 different things, like how nicotine, how marijuana and alcohol affects like the athletic, what they're doing. And so that was just providing that. I didn't have much pushback either from the athletic department. I just, I had a meeting with the football coach and told him kind of what I was doing, my goals. And it really was just like, okay, what can we do? I know it's not like that everywhere. Salina has spoiled me tremendously because they are, but I really think it comes from the top down. And because I have such great relationships and great, response from the superintendent to the athletic director, all those things, I think that's why it's a little bit easier for me to get in with the coaching, but get in with, other things with the teachers. And so I really think that's a huge aspect of it is first building those relationships and what does that look like? And there's some things I've done for the school that has nothing to do with prevention, but it's an asset that I can bring, and it's building those relationships. I attend the monthly Chamber of Commerce meetings in our town because I was really into the school and we're really going, but then I really was struggling in the community part of it. And so since attending those, I have gotten great response from the town and really anything I need. They've been super supportive. We are actually going to do our second after prom party. We did one last year. We'll do another one this year. And they just came in and I think they gave over $1,600 in gifts. And so for us to give away that night, and he said, there's only 1,200 here, but they really do care and the school really cares. And so, it's really awesome because my kids don't even attend here. And so I really just think those relationships and building those, and just making it, kind of just a passion instead of a job. I always tell my husband I could do this without being paid, and he thinks I'm crazy, of course, but I think it's super fun what I get to do, and I really do love it. But to get to see these kids and know that we may not see the difference now, but it'll be later on, but being able to add, the athletic director and the ISP and the superintendent all in on this has been a huge, huge thing, and I really think it kind of needs all of those things to make it work.
Yeah, that's incredible. And the thing is, what I want to highlight is you had strong relationship with the schools, and that makes sense. You're working with Ty, y'all are working together, you're doing programming, you're working within the athletics. Then one thing you mentioned that I'll just point out is you mentioned that the influence happens from the top down. And I find that a lot of times when people ask me, Jake, how do I start developing a youth club and a youth initiative to get them involved, is oftentimes we can think, okay, we need to talk with the students or we need to talk with the school counselor. But oftentimes we run into gatekeepers and obstacles. And the lesson I would share too, which maybe you knew you were doing, maybe not, is by starting at the top, by talking to maybe someone at the district level or the county level, they can often give you access to be on campus more because they're bought in. And so it can save you a lot of time and help you speeding up those relationships, which I think is so cool. The other thing that I wanted to mention from what you just said was the fact that you went where you didn't have momentum. So you're like, all right, I'm joining the Chamber of Commerce, or I'm showing up to their meeting because that's going to help build those relationships. And we all know, anyone listening to this podcast who's involved in a coalition knows that you don't do it for the money, that you're not getting paid enough because you're really doing 5 jobs or 10 jobs in one. And so to say, I'm going to go ahead and show up at this part, and I'm adding that to my job description, is help speed up your other initiatives because now you have so much more involvement. Super, super cool. So I just want to celebrate you for a second. Woo woo. The other area, did you start a youth club, or how are students involved in your initiatives right now?
So I have a high school coalition and a middle school coalition. We meet once a month. And then I also have my adult coalition, which again, we meet once a month and we do bring those key players in. It's my superintendent, the athletic director, usually all three counselors from all three schools, all three principals try to be there, from Cherokee Nation, our SRO, our school resource officer. So I meet with those key people once a month. And then from there, then I have my high school coalition. We do a lot in the community, and they're the ones that, when we put on any event, they're beside me. And so I've even had some of them come and attend the chamber meetings with me just to show them like kind of this is our part. And so it consists of, there's about 13 of them. And so we just got back from CADCA in Washington, D.C. I was able to take 7 of them. And then our middle school coalition, and it's more, it's new. And so we don't do a lot of stuff outside. It's more stuff within the school that they help me do with putting up posters and doing stuff like that. But we've also done some like sober activities, like they did a dance and, we'll do game night, things like that. So they're really big at participating in that, but trying to get them bought in at an earlier age. So that way they're really prepared by the time they get into high school. And so that's, been really exciting. And so I have about 3 or 4 seniors graduating this year, which is so incredibly sad. But I have one of them that wants to pursue in prevention now.
Whoa.
Yes. And so we're trying to do an internship program for her this summer and to see what that looks like, because, and that's one of my biggest things is to get younger people involved. And that's the other part, is listening to them. So I don't just make up this stuff and just try to make it work. I actually ask the youth, what can we do? What's gonna, how can we meet people where they're at? And that's just kind of seeing what that looks like and taking what they say and really, wanting to do what they want to do too, because they're a huge voice in it. And so, but yeah, our middle school coalition's about 22, majority of them 6th and 7th graders. And so, but yeah, that's been a huge thing. Our high school coalition is super strong and, pumping right along, but our middle school is still just a little young. So we don't do a lot of, like I said, the community stuff. It's more stuff in the school, but they're already starting to see kind of what that looks like.
Okay. That is so cool. So we talked a little bit before. I told you I was I was speaking at a middle school today. What I didn't share is that, so this organization called Oshkosh Breakwater, they're the coalition in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And when I met them at CADCA Forum last year, they didn't have any youth presence at all. So that's why we were talking. And they're like, hey, we know we should have done it, but we don't know how. We don't know where to start. We don't even have relationship with our schools. Like, they won't meet with us. And so we decided to work together. And what was awesome is, so I grew up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, by the way. So that's my hometown. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to help you. We're going to get this thing figured out. And went and started reaching out to the administrators, figuring out what they wanted, because I found out the reasons why they were shutting down the coalition is they're like, hey, we're not into drug prevention. Like, our biggest issue is our students can't read. We need to get reading scores to get funding to keep the schools open, like all this stuff. So we went in with question mode instead, saying, okay, how can we increase literacy through prevention, and what's stopping students from showing up with their best selves? And as you and I both know, like, if you're showing up high to school or drunk to school, or you just have trauma from home you're dealing with, of course you're not going to keep the lessons. You're worried about your safety. It doesn't feel at home. Like, all these things can happen. So fast forward, we're here doing a week long. So I'm speaking at 5 middle schools in 5 days, launching a youth program with them, teaching them how to run it, all that good stuff. And my favorite part was today, it's a school a lot like you're talking about. They love athletics. They're super into that. That's going to be a reason to say no to substances or something harmful, is because I'm saying yes to an athletic career. Um, and what I love is like the students that the principal said, like, oh, those are our trouble students. Like, they're the ones giving us the most grief during the year, are also the ones who are like, hey, I'm into this idea. Let's do it. Let's join the club and throw some events. And I want to be involved in this. And it was just how you present it, right? And what you had said, which I loved, was like, you're not doing this for them. You're doing it with them. And one of the students said this. They're like, Jake, this sounds great. Are we actually going to do it? And part of me was like heartbroken, because I'm like, yes, of course we are. This is what we're doing. The only way it doesn't work is if you don't do it. But we have adults who care for you here and who are going to guide you along to do these things. And so the answer is, if you want it, yes, we're doing it and we're implementing your ideas. Like, my lips are shut now. I did my presentation. Now it's your time to talk. What do you want to do? And so we're starting that here, which is, for me, it's so rewarding, because as you know, like, the speaking stuff is fun. The students love it, but the real gold and the real change happens after, when you build the groups, the peer-led mentorship, the opportunities, and you can build something in your community. So I'm just so proud of everything you're doing and what we get to be a part of. And it is, this days you kick yourself and say, I can't believe this is my job.
No, and it was after your presentation in April that got the middle school coalition rolling and then wanting to be involved. So, because before that we didn't have that. And so that was super huge, in really, letting them know and see that. And so that's, like I said, always thankful for that, and, getting the students hyped up for it. But I think that's the biggest thing, is just continuing to use them, but also continuing to use the administration and to see what that looks like. So
Yeah, I love that. I would love to do quickly too, just to get an idea, because there's a question around of people saying, hey, we want to do restorative programming. Maybe they don't know how to pitch it. And you talked a little bit about that, and that they were pretty much all for it, because they said, hey, whatever we're doing now isn't working, so we're open. What is it you are doing for restorative programming? You mentioned the 2 days. Is there certain content you're using, or how did you figure out what you'll be doing?
So I did some research, and so what I'm using is the in-depth program from the long.org. And so that's what we're using. And like I said, it is meant to do like 4 weeks, an hour a day for 4 weeks. And it's meant to be done in group or one-on-one, whatever that looks like. And so I knew there was another coalition that did this about an hour away. So I went and visited with them. What were your successes? What were your, what did you have from this? Was it good? And I did some research on it, and it seemed to be really good for them, and, just that. And so I definitely would encourage, I know I had great response back, but if you are wanting to implement something, do your research and make it to where it's something that's obtainable, not something that is very far-fetched and it just can't happen, or there's not resources. And come with them with kind of a plan. And that's kind of what I did. I told them, I was like, okay, vaping's an issue. This is what we can do. It's been done here, here, and here, and these are the results. What if we could do this? And I think, Ty, you were in on that conversation when I presented it to them. And it was just, but I think if I would have went in and was like, well, this may work, I don't really know. But I did my research and did my homework before. And if you're really wanting to do something like that, I would definitely highly suggest you kind of do your homework and know what would be beneficial. There's several things out there for them to do. There's one that they can do strictly online. But we thought it would be better if someone could sit with them and do it. We thought that would be better results for our students. But someone else that's just doing it online, that may be well for them. There's several options out there, several free options. And so that's kind of where we went with that. And like I said, I use the in-depth, but there's several out there and they're free to use. And it was just, I had to do a 30-minute training online. It wasn't a big deal at all. So, and it gave me everything I needed. So
That's great. I'm going to check that out. Because there's a lot of people asking, and it's great to be able to give them, hey, here are some options you can study up. That's really good. And then Ty, are you helping to implement the course for the different programs right now?
So when she's not here, I am trying to follow up with them. Then I think she passes it on maybe to either the principal or counselor. And I'll even say this: it's not, it's not just her and I. It's not just our suit. Her and I. It's it is a collective effort. And I forgot to talk about this when we were talking about successes. This is just a story that I shared with you at the airport that I thought was kind of a huge deal. But literally day one of school, they've went all summer with vaping. They've had it in their pocket since they, maybe even before they've got out of school. We had somebody come in and their vape falls out of their pocket, and so they get ISP day one. And I immediately messaged Misty, and she says, yeah, I've got time. I'll be there tomorrow. Or maybe even that day, I think, actually. I'll be there today at 1 o'clock, I believe. Come to find out, she's homeless. And she's not even on the record for being homeless. So with Misty being able to do what she does, she was able to get her a little bit more help. And then we were talking the other day about that situation, and our middle school counselor has taken it upon herself to really look in and help the student and make sure that they've got everything they need. Even gave them a Christmas gift, right?
Oh,
wow. Sorry, secretary, not counselor, secretary. And so, like, everybody's bought in. It's not just a few people, and I shouldn't say everybody. Most people are bought in, and as this thing grows, I think more and more people will buy in, and then it'll be 100% school wide. And it's just like she said, when you have teachers and community members that really care, it makes it a lot easier. And to me, that is just can attest to what we're dealing with and how giving some of the people that we have are. And you may not think it at the beginning, but they just surprise you and are looking after all of our kids.
That is such a great story. And wow, what a testament to the simple thing of having a program like this that's an alternative to suspension. The fact that you knew that she needed more help. Mm-hmm. Wow, praise God. That's amazing. I love that so much. We're getting close to time. How can people follow what you're doing? If you have an Instagram handle or Facebook or anything like that we can cheer you on and stay in touch with what you're doing. How can people follow you?
So just on Facebook, which my daughter informed me the other day, if I really want to be big, I got to get on Instagram. So hopefully I can figure that out soon. Hopefully on her summer break, she can really get me going on the Instagram part of it. But right now it's just Facebook, and it's on Salina Cats, and we're the Community Against Toxic Substances. Or they can find me, my personal Misty Russell, and then I'm able to show you where to go from there. But they can always reach out to me. It's Misty Russell at rocmnd.org. If they ever have any questions, or they can get a hold of you and get a hold of me. That's the biggest thing. And so sometimes I've been in some schools recently and to show them how easy prevention is. And so I just send them the toilet tabloids, and they're putting them up in their school. So I'm already doing the hard work. So what's just an email sending. And so we've been invited in August to go and speak at, what is that? It's a big kind of convention or conference for all the superintendents, all the kind of.
It's a conference.
Yeah, it's for paint. The higher within schools, specifically speak on what prevention looks like in the schools and what that relationship looks like. And so we've even had our kids present at our board meetings to our school board members. So we've done that, but we've even involved from like our custodians, whether we get them a gift and tell them how much we appreciate them. Thursday is SRO day. So I just presented the SRO with a big basket of stuff and just to tell them thank you. And those things go a long way, like just showing appreciation and doing things like that. So
it's so good to hear just all this stuff that you're doing. It warms my heart and it makes me really hopeful for our work, because there's a lot of people that are lost. They don't know what to do. And you're a good mentor in the space that can help. We can follow in your footsteps, implement the same things. And it really just comes down to a lot of times the hard work, but important work of building relationships, getting student involvement and input, and just going for it, spending the time to do it. Because even that small thing of appreciating people,
yes.
It's like, yeah, we want to be appreciated, but we don't always think that we're leaders. Mm-hmm. And if you're listening to this and you're in a coalition or you're in a school, realize you are a leader. If there's stuff happening in your town that you don't like, we can also look in the mirror and say, how can I be a part of the change so that my community is a reflection of our values and what we do? So I just love the simple, practical things you're doing, that they're not easy, but they're simple, and you're taking the time to do them. And I think you're seeing the results of that, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I leave with a smile on my face all the time. I love it. And of course I love what we get to do. And then I hear other stories, how people don't have as fortunate as having such good leadership and be able to buy in. So, but that's one reason to bring in and have the athletic director here sitting with us today and our superintendent going and representing, because the superintendents don't really want to hear from me or what that looks like, but hearing from another athletic director or another superintendent on what that relationship with myself looks like and that type of thing and what it can be. And so I think those are just really huge too. It's just that they can see that from their perspective on what that looks like. So
yeah, that is so good. Well, I feel like for everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Party Talk podcast. Honestly, I think you could listen to this for 3 or 4 different times and pick out some other ideas that just strike you or that we could use. And Misty and Ty, thank you for the work that you're doing and for being willing to spend some time just recapping with me and hopefully inspiring some other people in our field to follow in your footsteps. Thanks for sharing your info, all that good stuff too. So for everyone listening to the Party Talk podcast, we will see you next Monday for another episode.